Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Tactical Baby Gear podcast. Today, we have with me none other than the one and only Tyler Merritt. Tyler is the co-founder and CEO of Nine Line Apparel. And in this episode, we kind of talk about his military career, how Nine Line got started, what the Nine Line Foundation is up to, what it's like for him being a father, and a few other things. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. What's up, Tyler?
What's up?
How's it going?
Good, man.
Good. Thanks for coming. I know that things have been crazy for you. You guys are making waves across the news again, this time poking at Starbucks.
Yes, this is not Starbucks. This tastes wonderful.
That's Black Rifle.
Mm-hmm.
It's the murdered out.
It's great. Starbucks tastes like shit in a blind taste test done by me.
And now that it's going to be on the internet, we know it's true.
Yeah, that's obviously it's true. Mm-hmm. Tell us more about that. So Starbucks had asked some police officers to leave a store because some customers felt uncomfortable with police officers in there.
Yeah, usually criminals feel uncomfortable when police are around.
Exactly what I said this morning.
Yep, but the sad thing is the culture, and it's the way that Starbucks has presented itself to the world as a extreme leftist hangout spot. You know, there's jokes around the internet about going to the barista in your hipster outfit. And that's the thing, is that the hipsters did not create the barista.
Right.
You know, that there's alternatives out there, and they're going to realize that they don't own the coffee market. And, you know, we're super pumped to be partnered with Black Rifle because they have a value set that resonates with me and with the group of individuals that I associate myself with.
Right, and your business, which is Nine Line Apparel, by the way.
Absolutely. And that's where you find like-minded organizations, yourself included, where I like to partner with individuals that I don't mind being around.
Right.
The money at the end of the day is great, but
right, that's like an added bonus to it, right? It's like icing on the cake.
If you don't like what you're doing, change it. I love being in the Army. I was in since 2002, went to West Point, spent 15 years thereafter. I loved every minute of it, and I wouldn't change anything for the world. But if I was unhappy at one point, I would have just ended that career. Right. It ended for me, right, which is nice.
Talk about your career in the military. Tell them a little bit more about what you did and how that transitioned into Nine Line, because Nine Line kind of started on accident. Is it right?
Yeah. I think a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs, they just fall into it, especially people who have that same spirit of just trying to innovate. So while I was in active duty, I like to tinker around with things on the internet. I like to build websites. I like to see how I could make things better. And I had a problem with finding rental properties. I was moving all the time. You know, I joke around, but my 9-year-old has moved 6 times. My 17-year-old has moved about 15 times. I've moved 26 times in my life. And so finding a rental property around military bases was important to me. So I created a database and I worked with other people, and that business did not end up succeeding. Not by lack of effort, but
some things just don't work out.
It didn't work out, and
you have to be willing to recognize that and just cut your losses and move on.
Absolutely,
too.
And I pivoted, but I took a lot of the lessons learned and the technology that I had built, and I turned it into Nine Line because there was another problem in my unit at the time, which was morale. We were deploying more than any special ops unit to date, and it was like that badge of honor. I'm never home. But, you know, on average, we busted every single mandate from SOCOM of this is how many days you should have time at home with your family. We've never had it. You know, my kids would see me put on my uniform, and they would freak out because they didn't know if I was leaving for a day, a week, a month, 6 months.
Right.
And so that really put a damper on morale. Add to that the carnage of war and people losing their lives and constant chaos.
And a lot of unknown from your wife, I'm sure, of like, well, I haven't talked to Tyler in a while, and I don't know.
Absolutely. And then when she did talk to me, it was like, hey, I know we're in the middle of building this business. I sold our house while I'm deployed. And I need you to move. I know you're pregnant, and we've got 2 kids at home. but I need you to also run the business and stop going to school because we can't afford that now. So, that's the trials and tribulations of the military spouse. And,
Right.
they are there to support us while we're gone. I definitely couldn't have done her job. And that's that relationship between my wife and my kids, obviously solidified, but it had serious ups and serious downs. And again, I wouldn't change anything for the world, but, it gives you time to reflect and see who I am today is because of my past.
Right.
It shaped and defines me, good, bad, and different. I think all of the lessons I learned growing up from, my father and growing up in the military and starting.
Your dad was in the military?
No,
Oh.
no, my dad was as bad as hippie as they come.
Your dad's awesome.
He's
I
very
love coming.
chill.
I love coming to the office and seeing your dad. He's like, Mr. Merritt's always around. Like,
Yeah.
and he's working.
But his work ethic
harder than
is-
anyone else there.
Absolutely.
Like the first time I met him was at the old spot and he's like pushing a cart of t-shirts from one building to another and like sweating. It's August and he's like,
Yep.
he's getting it every
There's
time.
one person who could outwork me, it might be my father. And that's something that I grew up respecting. Hey, do you want something? Yes, I would love to have a motorcycle. I'm 8 years old. Great. Go start mowing lawns.
Right.
Go start doing chores. And I became creative. He's like, hey, every stick you pick up, I'll give you a nickel. So I started breaking sticks. One big stick into little
Scaling
sticks.
it.
And now that I have kids, I tell my daughter things like that, and she will find that gray area where she's like,
Good
"You
for her.
said."
Getting
I'm like,
creative.
well,
I mean, it's
you know
like,
what?
yeah.
But that's what drives innovation. Do you want something? We're a capitalist society. There's things that we want. I look at your wall of weapons. I'm like, I want those. Right. But those cost money, and that money has to be earned. And that's the work ethic that you try to instill in your kids. And I think my dad did a pretty good job. I think I'm trying to do as good a job with my children. But as we become successful, I didn't grow up with all the niceties. And I've been through some crazy stuff. I've been shot at, I've been stabbed, I've been in hospitals for many periods of times, and I don't want my kids to ever have to go through any of those things.
Right.
And that's where, you try to find the balance between providing them the niceties of life and letting them go through those same trials and tribulations.
For sure.
Build some character.
Yeah. So you talked about, the necessity for morale in the military. I want to back up a little bit more. What was your job in the military? What were you doing for most of your career while being deployed and doing all those things?
I was a glorified bus driver.
Stop it. You're so humble.
I flew helicopters for Special Operations primarily in the 160th. And before that, I flew Apaches. So I was a Death Stalker to a Night Stalker.
Got it.
So I was just a stalker, I guess.
Not a bad way to have some fun.
No, I always had a fascination with flying and aviation. That's all I ever wanted to do.
Ask these guys all I talk about every single day. Like my birthday was a week ago. I was like, who got me a helicopter for my birthday? Like I want a helicopter so bad.
I'm working on
and
it.
that's what I'm working for. I think it's the coolest thing. My mom actually got me a helicopter this year, but it's like a little toy helicopter.
Yeah.
She's like, well, you've always wanted one. I finally, and I was like, what'd you get? She's like, got you a helicopter. I'm like,
Yep.
Duh.
Well,
I
there's
want
good
one so
advice
bad.
out there. If it flies, floats, and other things, you should rent it.
So I should return the boat I just bought.
Yes. Immediately.
Cool. So that was your military career, flying helicopters as a stalker of sorts. And then that necessity for morale and how that turned into Nineline. Tell us about that.
So you have a group of guys, small subset of a small subset that are constantly gone. And so we have these morale shirts to try to boost the morale. So we'll be deployed to different units, organizations. For example, deployed to overseas in the Arabian Peninsula with guys from SEAL Team 7, Eddie Gallagher's unit. And we would create these shirts to show esprit de corps, the relationship between us and their unit and maybe the mission set we're on, or just a unit morale, just for our unit. Like we were unit with a certain number to that. That's
Right.
That's something that I can wear now and remember and reflect back.
kind of a timepiece. You're just
Yeah,
like,
but
this shirt represents this time, this era, this location, this mission, this whatever.
Well, then that becomes classified. You can't put all those things on the same shirt. But
to you, it means those things.
Yeah, and for me, coming from flying Apaches, and I was the commander there to the Night Stalkers, you start all over. So go from that to being the guy who cleans out the refrigerator or the guy who makes the T-shirt order. And that's the one that I picked up as an additional duty as one of 10 million that we had. But it was like the grunt work, go sweep the floors. And it was a pain in the butt.
Go find us some shirts.
Yeah, so I had to go collect information from individuals, collect funds, then go find someone to print it. Then I got these itchy, nasty Gildan shirts that had one color on it, and they were charging me, a ridiculous amount of money. And then I had to deal with the wrong sizes and, back and forth. So I was like, hey, you know what? I like building platforms. So I just built a website and I made it secure and I passed it out to friends and family, and it was much easier to manage. So we started doing that for other units. And then I didn't like the brands that we were using. Nike didn't resonate with me. The Gildan doesn't really have a meaning or call to action.
It's a blank, yeah.
It's just a blank shirt. So I wanted something that resonated with our community, that meant something. And I think everyone knows what that 9-line terminology is in the military. And then it went from seeing that there's a big gap in at this time, the civil military divide. I'm from Greenwich, Connecticut. I think there's 3 other people in the military from Greenwich, Connecticut. And I would go there with my friends coming back from deployments and do fundraiser for, say, we're building houses for severely wounded veterans, some of my friends. This individual's name is Mark Holbert. He's a 5th group guy, lost both his legs over in Afghanistan. Great guy. We're building a house in D.C. for him. So, hey, you know what? Let's do a fundraiser in Connecticut. Show up. Guys are coming in with McLarens and Ferraris, this $100 million estate. And I raised more money in a backyard barbecue in Savannah than I did there. It was, after all expenses paid, I think we netted like $5,000. And it was horrible.
What?
And and these guys would ask questions like, are we still at war? I'm like, yes, dude.
You're like, we're doing this wrong right now.
I just am in the middle of my deployment. I'm going back in a couple weeks.
Right.
Like, this is serious. This is my friend who just lost his legs, trying to build a house for him and his family. And that's where this, drive to close that divide, to try to bridge the gap between those who served and those who didn't, and have a conversation and educate people. Because you're talking about 1% of the population that maybe has friends and family. Maybe that expands out to the direct relationship of, say, 10% of America. But there's a big gap in certain areas. So rather than be confrontational and say, I'm a grunt, you're nothing because you never served, I think that's a horrible mentality to take. It's, hey, I'm wearing this shirt because I support, the men in blue, because I support the men in the military, because I believe in USA-made manufacturing, because I like having a conversation and being a voice for first responders and veterans who oftentimes don't have the money to provide themselves the right counsel to have a voice to defend themselves.
Right.
And those are the things that we care about.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So you had mentioned being deployed with Gallagher's unit. 9-Line's making a big push, you guys are making a lot, not stirring the pot, but bringing a lot of awareness around that situation. You've become an authority on Fox News of like, it's always Tyler Merritt on talking about some recent events, whether that's Gallagher or Nike or Starbucks. What was, and that all kind of just came full circle finally for Gallagher, right? Tell us more about that.
Yeah, it was a great 4th of July week for him and Andrea and the rest of the legal team. It's been a long battle. By the time we learned about this...
So for you guys that don't know who Eddie Gallagher is and what the situation is, they were trying to prosecute...
He's a father. He's a soldier, and he was a Navy SEAL for 20 years who had what you would consider a modern-day mutiny, a coup d'etat from his unit. 3 individuals, 3 bad actors that do not represent the Navy SEAL credo, that decided to get rid of their leader, not through a bullet like they did in Vietnam, fratricide, but by making false accusations. And eventually one of them came forward and said, you know what, it wasn't Eddie Gallagher that killed this child, right? That was the narrative. That's what the New York Times said. Navy SEAL kills baby child. That's basically what they wrote. And they didn't say the story, which I'll explain it really quickly. As an Apache guy, I follow a target that's usually a beacon, because dumbasses, I don't know if I could say that, they carry this thing around, which is a beacon, and then we drop bombs on them. So we followed this child, right, a 15-year-old military-age male, that's what we would call him, to a building, and then we blew up the building. And 39 people died. He survived. And the Iraqi general grabbed him, threw him on top of his Humvee, drove him to Eddie, and said, keep him alive so I can keep torturing him later. Sodomize him. He's going to die, but we're going to get as much information as we can.
Right.
Common practice. Everyone knows that. And our job, just so everyone knows, it's to advise and assist. Whatever they ask us to do, even outside morality of what we would say is that's just wrong. That's what our job is to do.
For the end game of keeping Americans safe and free.
Absolutely. Because they will come here, and we thwart their efforts.
Well, we've seen it happen
on a regular basis, but that's fine. Just sleep silently at night, knowing that there's Eddie Gallaghers out there who will go do bad things to bad people on a regular basis. And this is a guy who's deployed over a dozen times, 20 years. So he gets back a year later. They don't like him. He has hard tactics, right? The daytime missions. Guys don't like daytime missions. Reason being is we own the night. I was a night stalker. I was a death stalker. Like, we own the night. They don't have the same capabilities as us, but they hide very well. And it's often dry holes. No one's there. So going during the day, they surprise them. That's not normal tactics for us, but it's dangerous for us. So Eddie's people didn't like that. They're young millennial SEALs. I hate saying that, but they were just...
That's the generation.
Punks.
Yeah.
And I'll call it to their face, and I've told them that they're a disgrace, but I've got no tact. And I know the community, and I know the one that was in SEAL Team 6 has been kicked out since then. Long story short, we almost set this man to prison. We stormed his house at gunpoint while he was out, and took his children and wife out in their underwear in front of their neighbors.
It's
no reason for that. They wanted to make a case so that these prosecutors would have a name for themselves. They didn't care about the truth. They didn't care about the narrative. They didn't try to track down the Iraqi general. We did. Luckily, we still have friends there. They didn't care about the evidence. They told congressmen.
Who is they?
The NCIS and the prosecutors.
Got it.
Talk about prosecutorial misconduct. It's a travesty. And what people don't understand...
It's just such a disgrace, man.
In the military, you're essentially proven guilty till proven innocent. And that was the narrative that we pushed. That was the first article that I pushed that got incredible traction. Ended up talking about it on Fox News with Andrea. Ended up going and having a good relationship with the Fox News team to make sure that the truth is being heard. Because the New York Times, Hillary Clinton, everyone jumped on this bandwagon of Eddie Gallaghers should go to jail. Who are you, Secretary of State? Who, besides just leaving all of my friends to die in freaking Benghazi, you want to pipe up and now send another person to lose their life with no knowledge of the facts just because Donald Trump says it? I mean, I don't care if you guys want to piss on each other, but don't use Navy SEALs as a punching bag. We're not disposable. And they consider us disposable. So I want to have a voice for Eddie and people like the Baltimore Six who are wrongfully accused of murder as well. Because these guys deserve the presumption of innocence. And a lot of times they don't have a salary that can afford a $500,000 defense counsel. And that's what we were able to help get them is, they had Donald Trump's attorney. They had Bernie Kerrick's old attorney. Like, they had some of the best attorneys in the country, but they're not cheap.
Right.
So that was the David versus Goliath. And the only way that we were able to win, I think, is that we had so many voices, so many people. I'm one of many more. Pete Hegseth, would talk to the president directly about this and then relay information. And that guy is incredible. Like, talk about a dude who's got a voice that uses it very well. But that's why I think ultimately there's so much pressure that people decided to do the right thing,
right,
and tell the truth. And the truth is that Eddie's a salty, old school Navy SEAL. But if the Iraqi general said keep him alive, he's gonna keep him alive.
Right.
The other guy did a mercy kill, understood. I mean, this is the travesties of war. This is stuff that people don't want to hear about. Then either turn a blind eye, or let's talk about it and change some.
There's a lot of things that happen. They get brought up into the general public that I don't think the general public should know about at all.
Well, we did it all through that last administration. While I'd be deployed, my call sign became a movie. Like there's when our unit would deploy into Afghanistan, and we were Prince 4-1, Prince 4-2 was the call sign used in going to kill bin Laden. Like all that information that gets leaked out. Unit symbols, locations, ways and means, and these people make tons of money off it. And nothing happens to them. You got Hillary Clinton can do just about anything, nothing happens to her, and then you have an individual who sends a picture of a deceased soldier, like Eddie Gallagher. That's what they charged him with ultimately. It was the only one of like 90 charges, but that's the one they got him with. Everyone else, no one got charged, but that'll be a felony on his record. He'll be reduced down to E1. He'll lose his retirement, and a lot of bad things will happen. So the fight is still on, and we're going to continue to push, and hopefully the president doesn't have to intervene, and hopefully NCIS and the Navy stops having me punch them in the face. But that's what I'm about to do this
absolutely
week.
Crazy. Well, that's a great segue into the Nine Line Foundation. All I've heard from you is how much you're constantly trying to help other people. You've, with the fundraiser for your buddy that lost his legs, to fighting for all these other people, standing up for the country. Like you guys Nine Line is all about just helping everyone else out. That's what a Nine Line is. Explain to these guys what Nine Line means.
And the military, Nine Line's a CASEVAC call. So if someone gets injured on the battlefield, they'd call someone like me, and I would pull them off. And to your point, this stuff's fun. If you ever get down to the Veterans Village, you get to work with Kendall and talk to him and like hear his story and see how appreciated he is about having a house and how he wants to pay it forward.
Well, it feels good to help people, and it's fun for you. When it becomes a passion, it's like you're not doing it for recognition or the money or any of that kind of stuff that may come along with it. Even though, so the Nine Line Foundation is your nonprofit foundation that you guys have events, and you guys listening have heard me talk about the 5K, 10K run every year. We always attend it. We always sponsor. We always promote it. We do what we can to help raise funds for that. But the Nine Line Foundation, you guys just opened the village, the homeless veteran village. Is it homeless or wounded or both?
Homeless. And this is a group project, and this is where it gets tricky because our foundation initiative is transitional housing. So we have a section of this village. So it's 12 houses. And those individuals in that section of the village will be going to Nine Line on a daily basis, and we'll be teaching them aquaponics through a partnership with Georgia Southern.
Right.
And it teaches them a skill set. So the idea is housing first, not housing only. And it's a hand up, not a handout. And that gets political. It gets stupid because people don't like the ideology, and it should be housing only. So there's still things going on with that project, but overall, the end state is getting people off the street, and we're doing that very rapidly. The next thing is now what? It's like declaring victory in Iraq, circa 2004. It's premature. We just started. This initiative is steeped in theory. And we're taking the best of everything around the country, I think, and going to set it in motion. But it's only going to be successful because the city of Savannah and the individuals around here are supporting it. And if we can continue to educate individuals that people on the street are just like you and me.
Yeah.
One paycheck away from being homeless. I've got a lot of friends and family that could be, homeless.
Right.
And it's encouraging them to go and reconnect with family members, or if they have none, then it's encouraging them to be self-reliant, how to reintroduce themselves into society. You can't just hang out in the woods all day.
So the village that he's talking about, they've built a village of tiny homes. So how many homes are on there now?
There's 20, but only 10 are occupied at this point.
Okay, so is that going to be max capacity is 20?
No,
keep going.
It's planned for 74.
Okay, cool. So they're building tiny homes one at a time. They get volunteers come in. They raise funds to pay for materials and things of that nature. And they're building a village
and volunteers. We have the materials at our facility, and people will come there on the weekends and help us build these.
Yeah, building. So they've got this village of tiny homes to house these homeless veterans. But alongside of that, they also have made efforts in the past to build complete homes for wounded vets and that are wheelchair accessible.
Correct.
And things of that nature. How many of those have you guys done?
Four.
Four? Mm-hmm. That's super cool, man.
Around the country. It's been a lot of fun. And that's what I'm saying. It's fun to go to these different communities and show them this initiative and see how many people come out of the woodwork saying, I want to help. Mm-hmm. It's just one person to spearhead it, and it's not always me. It's usually a coalition of individuals. I like to help as much as I can. But it's building the teams, it's building the initiatives, and it's encouraging people. So we have so many employees that work for us that, to your point, say, hey, I want to help this person, this organization. Say, hey, come up with a plan.
Yeah.
And then
and a lot of your employees are volunteers for the foundation.
Absolutely.
And they don't get paid for their time in that.
No.
They all, like, everybody's a volunteer.
We have 0 paid employees for the foundation.
Right. Which means all the money goes towards the veterans and the...
Which is important to me because in the beginning when I was donating substantial funds and watching it go and be wasted and thwarted, extravagant trips for executives of nonprofits and ridiculous pay compensation compared to what they were doing. It just made me upset because that's money that's hard to earn. And I know I'm like many other people. If you work hard, you want to see your money put to good use. So I'll donate to foundations that have great reputations, not just my own. And I really do protect that reputation of if I take $1 from you, it's going to that specific initiative and nothing else. It's not going to private jets and fancy dinners. Right. We don't do those things. We shoot weapons and eat
But you raise money around it. So
a crap load of it.
Yeah. Yeah. One last question, and that's kind of like what the dynamic has been for you and your family being deployed, building this business, how that's affected kind of the work-life balance with the kids and the family and your wife. What has that been like for you?
There's no such thing as a work-life balance. They have to go together or else they won't survive. I think the hardest thing in the military is there's no way to really do a work-life balance. I can't bring my kids with me on trips. Mm-hmm. It'd be really dangerous. Like a stowaway. But that's the hardest part is that I'm going to be gone for upwards of a year and you need to take care of these children. I'm going to Skype with you as best I can, but there's no balance there. With my job now, it's a great balance. I mean, last week I grabbed an RV. We drove to Rome River, hung out with Luke Combs, drove up to Virginia and went down the Jellystone River, floated down the river with my kids.
I saw a lot of those pictures. It looked
and
awesome.
Then I went up to Fox News for the week and I did a bunch of interviews because I knew I had to do all of those things.
Right.
We're on a budget. RV driving is smarter with a bunch of kids.
Right.
So, I got 2 Great Danes, 3 kids, my father.
Took the dog.
Yeah. But we go to these trips and we go to these country concerts and these NASCAR events and these other things that we sponsor. And my kids get to meet really cool people. They don't understand that they're famous, cool people. I've got Diamond Dallas Page and other wrestlers, Undertaker, all hanging out. They're like, "Oh, your friends are really tall."
I'm like, you don't know who these people are. These were the people in my day.
Yeah. But that's cool.
It's super cool.
Them, they get to go and see cars go around in circles in the pit.
You ever feel like you're spoiling them with some of that stuff?
No, I don't think so. They're experiences. You can't spoil someone with experiences. And it's not like we're going and eating caviar and drinking doing stupid things with money. We're going to fun events, and these are things that I'm actually making money off these things. Like I go to country events and we do very well with selling.
What's cool is that like those events are allowing you to almost, and you can't make up for lost time, but a lot of the times that you were deployed and away from your family, it's almost like you're being able to make up for that. Like I wasn't here for a lot of your life, especially for how old is your oldest? 16?
17.
17? Mm-hmm. That's crazy.
Right?
Does that blow your mind?
Yeah. But it's exactly what that's like because I wasn't able to do a lot of those things and it was more difficult. And I say that story of balance, right? My wife's a nurse practitioner now. She was able to go back to school. She got her master's from Columbia. Like she would fly from here to New York every week, and so I got to experience being the dad. I'm spoiled because I got a nanny, so I'm gonna everyone else out there before that, I understand you. Yeah. But I get so much stuff going on. There's no way I wouldn't be able to do all these things. So we have a great continuity for my children with a nanny who's been with us for a couple years, and she's like family. But without that balance. My wife has desires to become a nurse practitioner. We have to make that happen. That can't be put on hold forever.
Right.
She did it for years, years to help us grow this business. But now she's doing that, and she does part-time helping out with Nineline. Comes in, does modeling.
Well, she was a big part of Nineline to begin with.
Yeah, she was customer service, production. She was the only person who did all of our production with our first direct-to-garment. And without her...
Yeah, you're deployed. She's at home running the business.
Yeah, I didn't have money.
She was everything.
She's got deferred compensation. We got to pay her down the line.
I like that.
But it's.
Don't tell my wife
that one.
But you got to think about it. Well, so did I. Yeah. I didn't get paid.
Of course, none of us got paid in the beginning.
And that's
but we did it because we loved it.
Yeah, and that's where you get to see now that I've got a nice house and I've got nice cars and I've got a nice building and I got nice debt too. But
you made a lot of sacrifices to get there.
But we made a lot and we've worked our butt off. And I'm proud of what we've accomplished, and to go from a tiny little apartment that we lived in because I needed to liquidate everything to 6 years later where we are now. It's incredible. It's definitely inspiring for a lot of people I know. It's humbling for me. But the work-life balance now is more achievable because I am my own boss and I can set my own hours. It just so happens, just like in the special operations, my boss would tell me, Tyler, I don't care when you come in or when you leave. As long as you get all your work done. Just so happens you're going to have to come in super early to get all it done. And you're going to probably have to stay super late and work on Saturdays.
Right.
And that's where I was this last Saturday, working with everyone else until about 5 o'clock with the children. So my wife could work on the house at home because we had a small leak in our bathtub, and so she wanted to fix it. So by the time I walked in my house on Saturday around 5, because I had a dinner to go to, I walked in and see that there's water streaming from my ceilings and from the floors and everywhere. So we didn't fix the leak, and my insurance company hates me. But she looked at me and she said, "I ruined our house. I'm so sorry." I'm like, Angela, there's nothing. No one's getting shot at. Nothing. We can fix all of these things. This is not the end of the world.
First world problems.
It is. It's that first world problem.
That's what we have insurance for, even though they hate you now. Couple of claims here recently.
Yes.
Unfortunately, the original, the starting place of Nineline burned down recently.
3 weeks ago.
Your old house.
And my insurance company hates me. So 3 weeks ago, I have a house that burnt all the way to the ground, and then now I have probably 50, 60 grand worth of damage at my current house. And at the end of the day, none of that stuff. I mean, it's money. It sucks. But none of that stuff matters. It really doesn't.
Everyone's still healthy, happy. No one got injured.
That's why people try to figure out, hey, it takes a lot to really rattle me. It's probably because weapons or something are out. But at the end of the day, you got to stay calm, cool, collected, and just be the person in the storm that can weather it, that everyone else looks to. Because right now we've got 70,000 units that we have to get out the door. Right? That's why I almost bailed on this, but I didn't.
I appreciate that.
We're pulling 24-hour shifts since 4th of July. That's everyone, so myself included, and we have to hit records in order to get products out the door. We don't know exactly how we're going to do it, but we do know that we can't accomplish it by going home, and that's where again my wife understands these times where I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be around home this week. I'm going to grab the RV and sleep outside the building.
Right.
And those are the sacrifices she understands. And as long as there's a path to being able to have a little bit more...
A little bit of light at the end of the tunnel.
Exactly. Yeah. So I call it path to profitability or path to happiness or whatever you want to call it. There's got to be an end state that's not this never-ending,
constantly moving finish line.
Because otherwise, it's like being a degenerate gambler. Like, at what point is enough enough? And I ask that to my friends who are degenerate gamblers.
I don't know that even for myself. Everyone asks,
find that out.
Well, everybody says what's your, I honestly don't have a goal, until recently have I really figured out, I just love to work and I love what we're doing and I'm super passionate about it. And I just love to work. And that's always well, when is enough? We're in a good place. We're financially, we're good. I'm not worried about that. So it's well, it's not really the money. So of course everybody wants to work and make more money, but it's not really that what it is for me. I just enjoy it. And now what I'm realizing is like, I just want to kind of, my big goal for all of it is just to make an impact for my family, for future generations, or whatever the case is, or, oh, great grandfather Beav did X or whatever, and just inspire and encourage other people kind of along the way. So, you know, it's funny because I don't there is not really a finish line for me. I don't know where that is. But.
Yeah, and I don't think there has to be a finish line. You know, as long as you just continue to live that day to its, and it sounds super corny, like live every day to its fullest. But it's true. If you're waking up every day like, man, I can't wait to get through this day so I can get to something down the road. Well, you should probably look at that. Like every day I wake up, I'm like, I can't wait to go to work. I love Black Rifle coffee. That's what I'm gonna have. I'm gonna probably do some physical therapy on the way there so I can feel better. And then I get there, I interact with people that I love talking to on a daily basis that I care about.
And you have, going on 200 employees?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure I love every one of them.
You got some awesome people
Not in that
there.
weird way either.
Yeah.
But it's cool. And we get to decide, you know, there's drama and there's people who like to come in and create drama. That's the one thing that'll get you fired faster than anything is
screwing up the culture.
The culture. And the culture is drama free, and it's individuals who like being around each other at work, after work.
Right.
And don't mess with that.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I know you got to run. Thank you for coming and giving us your time. Go get some shirts shipped out. I appreciate it.
Thanks,
where can everybody find you?
NinelineApparel.com. You can physically find me at the building. You can find me
450
online.
Fort Argyle Road in Savannah.
That's right.
Nine Line Apparel. Go do some shopping. Get a cup of coffee if you're in the Savannah area. Go check out their website, like he said, at NinelineApparel.com.
And Charleston.
Go to the Charleston store and the River Street store. You can also find tactical baby gear in all those stores.
That's right.
Awesome. Thanks again, dude.
All right, dude.
Appreciate you.
Yep.